Hey guys, so I thought that today we would make a journal. And I decided I wanted to just use stuff that I have around my studio, and I didn't want to do anything fancy, and I didn't want to do anything involving sewing. So, what you're going to need, some watercolor paper. This is the remnants of, I had Canson watercolor paper, which was 120 pounds. This was just around my studio. Really, you could use cardstock, you could use any paper you like. Just keep in mind that whatever kind of paper you use is going to dictate what kind of materials and supplies you can use in your journal. I wanted watercolor paper so that I would be able to paint. And so I cut mine, and you could do this any size you want, but I cut mine to, it's about I think it's 6.5, or 6 this way and 6.5 this way, give or take. In fact, I have a ruler. I guess I could tell you exactly. Let's see. We have 6.5 by 6, but really it doesn't matter. You can make it any size you want. The reason that I made it that size is because I already had 2 pieces of, this is just corrugated cardboard. It's pretty thin. I mean, for cardboard it is. You could also use cardstock for a little bit thinner of a cover. If you didn't have any cardboard and you wanted a thicker cover, you could probably glue a couple sheets of cardstocks together, and that would probably result in a pretty decent cover. So we have our cover. The cover is going to be just a little bit bigger, if you can see. Just a little bit bigger than your paper. If it's exactly the same size, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference, but I would go a little tiny bit bigger. And then the other thing I'm using, also optional, but I thought would be fun, this is a set of table of content tabs, so they have like numbers on the side, and I already took those and cut them down to size. It's a little bit weird here because my paper cutter is old and a pain in the butt. You could cut, just with scissors. You could cut with an X-Acto knife and like a metal ruler like this. Really your preferred method. And these are going to be about the size of the cover, really. Like the tabs are going to stick out a little bit over the side, which is what I wanted so that I could flip through them. And then in terms of how many sheets of paper, I really don't know how many I have here. It's really up to you. I have 12. So that's enough for like a small journal. You could make it way thicker if you wanted to, or thinner if you wanted to. And then the other thing I was going to try out, and I did not do this yet, I'm going to show you how to do this. I have a security envelope, and I'm going to use that to make like a little pocket in my journal by cutting it in half and doing a bit of washi tape. So I'll show you that. And then the last thing that you might want, you could leave the cover just as is, but I decided, I found this, this is contact paper. I found it at the dollar store, so it was $1, and I thought it was really cute, so I was like, oh, I'll use it to make the cover. So I'm going to do that now. You could also just use regular paper, but I thought it would be really easy to use some contact paper. And I'm just going to cut it a little bit bigger than my cover. You could be fussy and make sure that the part of the pattern you want on the front is there. Not like, I don't mean fussy as in you're fussy for wanting it. I mean fussy as in like fussy cut it to make sure that it fits where you want it, which would be like a quilting term. So there we go. I don't care where the pattern is, so I'm not super worrying about it, but if you did care, I'm kind of pushing it down to make sure that it sticks really well, and hopefully there are no air bubbles. I'm just going to cut the corner to make it fold a little better for me, though it's really not going to make that much of a difference. I'm not cutting exactly on the corner, but a little bit above the corner so that you don't see the cardboard peeking through. Okay, so there's one. Okay, I got my covers done. Now I want to do my envelope. So I am just taping up the envelope so that stuff is not going to fall out on me. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that. I could always add more to it later. I'll save the other half depending on how this works out. I think that'll be good. Alright, so now you just have to figure out how you want the journal to go. So I figure I have 5 flaps. I think I have 12 sheets of paper, so it's basically going to be 2, my pages have gum on the top from that pad, but whatever. And 2 left in the front. Now I'm just kind of okay, so I have my journal ready. I have it all set. All the pages are in there where I want them to be. This is going to go in here, but I'm going to add that before I do the binding part. So the next step is that we need to get ready to cut our holes. There's a lot of different ways to bind a journal, and really anything that works will work, whatever you would like to do. I decided that I want to use some of this silk ribbon. In fact, I'm going to use this one with all the crazy colors, just because I thought it would go well with the tabs. And so I'm just going to make like a fringy, there's different ways you could even do the binding the way I'm showing it, but I'm going to make fringe because you guys have seen my journals. I tend to like fringe on my journals. If you don't like fringe, you could just wrap it around. Really, you could experiment. So before we start cutting anything, first of all, the covers are going to be, yeah, flip it over like that. Make sure all the pages are lined up. Alright, so I'm going to make a template. I found this is just a scrap of a cardboard box. It happens to be pretty. Look at this side so it's not distracting. And I'm just going to cut it so that it is the exact same size as my interior pages. Okay. And I'm going to mark on it. I just grabbed the closest marker. It doesn't matter what you use. This is the top. So I'm just going to remember that when I'm punching pages. It's only really going to make a difference with the tabs. The other ones, no biggie. So if you don't have tabs, you don't even have to do that part. Now I'm just going to mark where approximately I'm going to punch my holes. And I think that I'm going to do like 3 here and 3 here, and then leave the middle open. But I might change my mind. We'll see how it looks. I'm just going to mark. You could totally measure and be more precise, but I don't like to measure anything. Okay. I think that'll be good. Now I'm going to, this is a Crafty Big Bite. You could just use a regular hole puncher, though this is going to be a little bit harder to go through. You could also use like a Japanese paper punch if you have one, which is on my wish list of things. I don't really need one anymore, but I used to want one. You could even use like a hammer and a nail. Whatever you can do to make your holes, it's good. So I'm going to punch the holes in this first. How this guy works is there's 3 different settings. This sets eyelets. The middle one is a medium-sized hole, which you can see right there where it comes through. And the nice thing about this is that, and I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there you go. It shows you exactly where the holes are going to be, which doesn't help with this, but does help with other things that I have done. And then back here is the one we're going to use, which is the biggest punch setting, which is there. So how I punch is I push down so that I can see where it's going to punch, and then position it based on that. It really doesn't matter for this kind of binding if they're perfectly aligned. I mean, you might be very particular and want them perfect, but it doesn't bother me. Okay, so now I have a template, and what I'm going to do to punch all the holes is just take a few sheets of paper at a time. Probably this is going to easily punch through these, but I guess we'll see. Then I'm going to line this up, making sure that the arrow is pointing towards the top. I guess in retrospect I should have done the holes on this side because it has a nicer edge, but whatever. And now I'm just going to punch. It doesn't really matter if you punch a little bit into the hole of your guideline, because you're still going to be, you know, pretty much where you need to be. Some journal bindings require you to be way more exact, but this one doesn't matter. And when I am done punching, I'm just going to flip it over and get the next little stack. Alright, so all of the interior pages are done. I don't know if you can tell, but they all line up, which is what I wanted. And now I have to figure out the cover, just to make sure that I have it positioned the way I want it. I think that's good. So you see that I don't know if this is really going to make that much of a difference, but I'm flipping front cover over. This matters with other binding things. Alright, I'm going to do one at a time and just remember that that's where I'm punching. So you do the same thing, but since this is smaller, just kind of center it. And you can pull it in a tiny bit if you want to. Like my cover is a lot bigger, so that'll be good. And the same thing, just punch. So I realized that I forgot to do this little envelope, which, to be honest, I don't even know for sure it's going to work, but I think it will. On the side that I cut and taped, I'm going to line up my template, and I'm just going to punch 3 holes down here. Okay, and so when I am doing my binding, I'm just going to leave it like that, and after it's done I can fold this down again. And I think I'm just going to tuck it all the way in the back.